Hey guys, it's Bjorn here again, Goosebumps #1 Aussie fan, bringing you another video. This time I'm going to be talking about what if the Goosebumps movie was made in the 90s. So yeah, let's firstly talk about the practical effects CGI. Well, I believe that if the Goosebumps film was made in the 90s, around the same time as the TV show, I believe they would have gone more with the practical effects, because, I mean, at the end of the day, the TV show was pretty much all practical effects. There wasn't too much CGI, and when they did use CGI, it didn't look that great. It looked pretty horrible. But I mean, that's only because it's the 90s, it wasn't that fantastic at that time. I mean, even now, you can obviously tell the difference between CGI and practical to me is much more realistic, you know, because when something's CGI, you can clearly see it, but when they use practical effects, it looks a lot more realistic, and I believe that's what they would have gone with. If making Goosebumps in the 90s, I believe it definitely would have been more practical effects and not too much CGI. Like the Whale for Fever Swamp would have been definitely practical, would have been someone dressed up in a suit. The same goes for the Abominable Snowman. It definitely would have been someone dressed up in a suit. There was no way they would have done that CGI in the 90s. But the Praying Mantis is a different story. I believe they may have gone with CGI for the Praying Mantis. I just think it's so big. But then again, you look at films like Jurassic Park and they got these giant dinosaur robots, you know. So who knows? Maybe they would have used practical effects for the Praying Mantis. But I'm just gonna say, if there was going to be I keep saying practical CGI. If there was going to be CGI effects, then possibly the Praying Mantis would have been the only one, I think. When you look at all the other characters like Slappy and whatnot, I think they would have definitely all been practical effects, no CGI involved. Alright, now let's talk about possible directors. I believe Steven Spielberg may have jumped on board to direct, only because, if you guys remember the Goosebumps Horrorland CD-ROM game, that was, I think, I can't remember, but Spielberg was involved with that game, and I feel like he may have jumped on board for the Goosebumps movie only because of that, that game. He may have jumped on board, but I see someone like Jim Henson, maybe doing the puppetry for Slappy and a couple other characters, possibly. I know Tim Burton was supposed to produce the film, but I don't know what happened to it. It's sort of, they were gonna do it, and then it just sort of all, I don't know, didn't materialize, I guess, and it just faded away. But then, of course, we've got the Goosebumps movie now, and as you can see in the video, I have a beautiful cardboard cutout with Slappy, and well, you can't see it all now, but I'll do another separate video, because I've actually gotten a lot of new stuff as well, new merch since my last video. Like, I have movie merch, mainly, and a few other little miscellaneous items. But yeah, I'm getting off topic. So yeah, I believe maybe Steven Spielberg would have, or maybe Chris Columbus, I think possibly as well, could have directed it. I mean, he did, I think it was Chris Columbus, did the first 2 Harry Potter movies. I think maybe he may have jumped on board for Goosebumps, I don't know. But I have a feeling Spielberg, only for the fact that he did the CD-ROM game. He was involved in bringing people in like Jeff Goldblum to be in the game. But that's when Goosebumps was like huge, like massive. But of course it's back now, which is fantastic. But yeah, I think Spielberg definitely was like the director of the movie. Alright, now casting. Ooh, this is the tricky one. I always had in mind that if someone was to play R.L.Stine in the 90s, it would have definitely been Robin Williams. He was in Jumanji. He was Alan in Jumanji, so I feel like he possibly could have been Jack Black, R.L.Stine in the Goosebumps movie. I think that definitely would have been Robin Williams. I mean, you know, you look at him in Jumanji, and the only difference is it's not animals coming out of a board game, it's monsters coming out of manuscripts, like, and you look at him in Hook when he's got like the glasses and his hair kind of slicked down, you know, it's kind of like R.L.Stine. So I think Robin Williams would have been like the perfect choice to play R.L.Stine in the 90s. I think the film's supposed to come out in 1998, so not far off from Jumanji, you know. So I think he definitely would have been the right choice. Rest in peace, man. Zach. Edward Furlong. Definitely Eddie Furlong. He was really big at the time. He was still very young looking in 1998. I mean, he was I think he was like 20 something. He was born in 1977. He was 20. He would have been 20 by the time they filmed it, because the film was supposed to come out in 1998. So he would have been about 20, but he didn't look 20 at that time. He looked very young still. I mean, you look at him now, it's a different story, but he was, I mean, he's actually one of my favorite actors, because it's not just Goosebumps that I like from the 90s. I love the 90s, and he's kind of like one of my heroes from the 90s, I guess. But yeah, he would have definitely been a good Zach and the characters. Oh my god, he's so good looking. Yeah, I've seen the movie, by the way. But I'll do a separate video talking about it. But yeah, I think Edward Furlong would have probably been Zach, because they would have needed someone good looking, as I said before. And I guess he had like the brown hair, brown eyes, you know, he would have had that 90s haircut that he had. I guess he would have been sort of the obvious choice to pull off Zach. Hannah, well, that's an easy one. Christina Ricci. I believe she would have been the perfect Hannah. She was huge, I think, you know, and by that time in the 90s she was massive. Everyone knew who she was. Same goes with Furlong, you know, they were both really big, so I think Christina Ricci would have been Hannah. I can't really see anyone else. I don't know why, I just see Christina Ricci. Champ. Ooh, could have gone either way. I think maybe Macaulay Culkin. He had like the blonde hair. I don't know, he was really big at the time. He was, I guess, the right age at that time. He was a little younger than Edward Furlong, but by that time they would have looked very similar in age. And I think that Macaulay Culkin would have probably been Champ. I mean, you just look at his previous roles in some of the movies he did. You know, he was a bit goofy, I guess, in some roles, I think. Yeah, some roles yeah. Macaulay Culkin is definitely Champ, so. Yeah, Robin Williams as Stein, Edward Furlong, Eddie Furlong as Zach, Christina Ricci as Hannah, and Macaulay Culkin as Champ. That's the lineup. It would have looked something like this. So yeah, Goosebumps movie, 1998. More practical effects, Steven Spielberg, and that casting choice. So I think that's probably how it would have looked. But of course, the monsters wouldn't have looked like they did in the new movie. They would have looked a lot more, you know, they would have looked a lot similar to the books, I think. I think Slappy would have probably had the green eyes, and you know, I think they would have made him look a lot more true to the book. But he did look a lot more true to the book, obviously, than the TV show. The TV show, I don't even know what went wrong there, but I mean, it's still Slappy, he's got the personality, and it was still great. And I guess he was still creepy in the TV show, yeah, still very creepy, but he didn't look exactly like the book. But I guess at least the book one had the brown hair, you know, the brown eyebrows, and and see, like, you probably noticed the Goosebumps movie poster for Australia is actually in the green writing, with all the green around, smoke and mist around it, not the blue and gold, which is kind of more like Harry Potter. You know, it was a bit more true, I think. When you look at the movie poster for Australia, I'll put it in the description, and then you look at the American one, which one looks more like what you remember from the 90s of Goosebumps? And I think definitely the Australian poster, and Australia and New Zealand, both the same. But yeah, that's all for today. I'll see you guys next week. I will do a discussion on the movie.